Sheriff Roberson in so many situations, and every single time I'm sort of shocked at how the same he is every single time I've met with him, no matter who he's talking to. And I'm proud that he's our sheriff, and I can't wait for him to give you some insights on county growth and his job and his role in the county. So without further ado, make some noise for Sheriff Roberson. Is that on? Okay.
All right, I didn't know if it was a question and answer thing. I want to tell you thank you, Dustin, and for 79 West for having us here. It's a beautiful space here. I'm so happy for the hotel to open up so that we can start using it. That's been my excuse. There's not really been good places to stay to bring people here, and I'm happy to brag about Chatham County a little bit. Y'all that don't know me, I'm Sheriff Mike Roberson. I do have my chief deputy here, Steve Boehner. Thank you. Chief does all the work. You don't know what a chief deputy is. The chief deputy is the second in command, but he's really like the chief of police for the sheriff's office. So he really runs everything at the office for us. My background is I grew up, anybody know where Jack Bennett Road is? Yeah, I grew up on that road when it was a dirt road and where Farrington was really a farm. And so that's where I grew up. I was telling somebody earlier, we didn't get locked in the house, we got locked out of the house and told to come back by dark. And so that's where I grew up, and met my wife here, Annette, in the first grade. Aww. Some of y'all think that I've been in the first grade a couple of years. She's actually a little older than me. So every year I get to celebrate for 13 days that I married an older woman. We were two of the youngest ones in class. So we went to Pittsburgh Elementary, Horton Middle School, and graduated from Northwood. We have 2 grown kids and 1 perfect grandbaby. 2.5 months old. Anybody have grandbabies in here? You know what I'm talking about? If you don't have them, having kids is worth the grandbaby.
Yes.
Just wait on it, is worth the grandbaby. I started my career in public service in 1990 at Chapel Hill Police Department as a public safety officer. I was a paramedic, a firefighter, and a police officer. Really enjoyed that. I probably wouldn't be in this line of work if they didn't pay me to go to school, to be honest with you. So I worked on patrol, community policing. I was a juvenile officer for 6 years. I was on the SWAT team. I've been an investigator. In 2002, Sheriff Webster, Richard Webster, my predecessor, was elected sheriff, and I came to work for him. Why? I do not know. Because it was not for a pay raise. He gave me what I was making. It was a leap of faith. It's like jumping into a pool and not knowing if there was any water in it. And for about 1.5 years, it's probably the hardest job I ever had because he was turning the ship around. And we used to have this joke about saying, we knew we had to turn the ship around, but nobody told us it was in a creek. So it's very difficult to turn the ship around sometimes when you're doing that. I got to do about everything at the sheriff's office. Training, I was an SRO supervisor. For some reason, there was an opening in the jail, and I volunteered to go to the jail. Most people in this career would not pick to go be the jail administrator. But it's basically like being a town manager. And you get to do everything in the jail that you would operate a small town on. You think it's just about taking care of the inmates. You're taking care of inmates, you're taking care of mamas, you're taking care of the doctor's needs, the attorney's needs, the judges, other facilities. It's a big operation to operate a jail. Then I got moved to courts, and I had nothing to do with this, but when I got moved to courts, the courthouse burnt down. So then I got to get involved. I was involved in building the new jail and planning that. Then I got to be involved in helping design the new courthouse. If you're not seeing, that's a beautiful facility. Renee Pascal, her daughter, is here somewhere. Renee Pascal was a big important part of getting those structures built for us. And then in 2016, Sheriff Webster retired, and I was unanimously appointed sheriff by both Republican and Democrat county commissioners to serve out his term. I was elected in 2018 and 2022 to serve as your sheriff, and this past year I was elected president of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. That's where 99 sheriffs elected me to represent. And out of everything, I'm most proud of that, and the reason for that, that's your peers voting for you. That's the people who do what you do, and they're asking you to represent them. That's a pretty big deal, and I really do appreciate it. It's a very hard job sometimes too, but really do appreciate it. Some of you don't know what a sheriff is. A sheriff is a constitutional position. It's the only position in local government that's required by the North Carolina Constitution. I'm a little bit of a history buff. And so what I like to tell you, because people don't know this, we're not county employees. I'm not a county employee. There was a sheriff here before there was a county. If you look at the dates on ours, it says 1770, county government 1771. I mean, the county government didn't start till like 150 years ago. So if you look back through the history, the sheriff is an old and ancient and honorable position. The sheriff's office is not mine. The sheriff's office is yours. And you, every 4 years, determine who's going to represent you as a law enforcement officer. So we don't own the position. It belongs to the voters. The sheriff has full authority to hire, fire, and dismiss his employees. That sounds like a pretty cool thing, right? A lot of people think that's a little scary. Well, let me tell you why that's important and why that needs to stay that way. And I don't like this part. But the sheriff is personally liable. Everybody know what personally liable means? That means I can lose my house, my car, my retirement. I'm personally liable for the action of his deputies, detention officers, and staff, even if he didn't know what they did. So if something happened last night, I'm still personally liable for it, even though I wasn't there. I didn't ask him to do it, didn't want him to do it. That's why the sheriff has that kind of authority. The county commissioners are personally liable for adequately funding the detention facility. They're personally liable for just the funding. The sheriff is personally liable for adequately operating that facility. The county commissioners are only required by law to give the sheriff 2 deputies. By law, they only have to give 2 deputies. So what do we have at the sheriff's office? We have 109 deputies, 49 detention officers, and 34 civilians for a total of 192 employees. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? No, it's not a lot. Because we cover 707 square miles. Everybody ever rode the border in Chatham County? You know how long it takes to do that? It's a huge county. It's about the size of Alamance and Orange put together. We also are responsible for all the lakes and rivers. So if a crime happens on the lake, we're responsible for it. If something happens on the rivers or streams, we're responsible for those areas too. We also support Pittsboro, Siler City, Apex, and Cary. Police departments, we have authority inside the towns too. If they get overrun, they get a call they can't handle, they need extra support, we are responsible for that area as well. We help state parks with criminal investigations, highway patrol with wrecks and injuries, wildlife with boating accidents and drownings, fire departments with structure fires, DSS with child protective and adult protective investigations. We served 4,100 civil actions or civil papers, that's like lawsuits, divorces, those kind of things last year. We had 500 court sessions last year. We answered 33,000 calls last year. That's 90 a day or 4 calls an hour. How many of you think those come in that evenly? You think 4 come in every hour? No, in the afternoons we're busy. We're doing what's called stacking calls. That means we're having to triage like a hospital. And we take the ones that are happening over the ones that have already happened, or the ones that's happening to somebody over something that's happened to something. Does that make sense? If someone's in a fight, we go to that one first. Someone broke into your house, that one might get put off a little bit, even though it's important to you. We are stacking calls. Not every day, but most days. We answered about 675 calls a week, and we write about 67 incident reports a week. That's a lot. We took in 1,100 inmates last year. They stay an average of 10 days in our jail, and 90% are male. 90% are male. We brought in 1,423 animals last year. So we bring in more animals than we do people. We had 424 adoptions last year, 671 rescue transfers. If you don't know what a rescue transfer is, it's when a rescue group takes those animals and adopts them for us. So we're not able to adopt them at the rate that we need to with the animals that are coming in. We honestly, if you're supporting an animal rescue that's working with us, we couldn't operate without it. So thank you for what you're doing with them. And one thing I like to tell our staff is we're in the people business. If you love people, I got the best job in the world. You got to love people to do what we do, but they don't always love you back. Does that make sense? And you got to love them anyway. The sheriff has 4 main duties. A lot of people don't know what a sheriff does. They have 4 main things they do. One is civil process. That's serving those papers I was telling you about. The whole reason we have county government as the United States is because we don't want the government taking stuff with us without a way to complain about it. And this civil process about notice and hearing is extremely important. You don't hear a lot about it because we do it right. Does that make sense? Until you get notice and hearing, a court action can't start. And so we only have 4 deputies doing that, so they work really hard. We have 9 that work in the courtrooms. We have up to 5 courts that are going on at one time. We've just added a court back in Siler City in 2 different locations, and they can be very, very busy at times. We have 9 deputies doing that. We run a detention facilities. We've had 15 no deficiencies in our inspections there. Y'all know what that means? Anybody had a fire inspection? Anybody ever had a fire inspection on a building? We also get health inspection. You ever had a health inspection? That's a little harder, isn't it? Well, guess what's harder than that is a jail inspection. That's even harder than that. We get all 3 of those inspections, and the last 15 times we've had no deficiencies in any one of those. That tells you the quality of work. That tells you the quality of work we have out there working at the detention facility. There's 54 people that help on the detention facility. The 4th thing that we're required by the Constitution to do is keep the peace. And it actually says keep the peace in the Constitution. Well, so what does that mean? Well, for us, that means response to a call, prevention, our animal resource response, our student resource officers in our schools, criminal investigations, domestic violence unit, narcotics, victim services, records, permitting, statewide transport of inmates and mental health. As when you see us at the beach, we're not at the beach having a good time, we're moving inmates or other people, and anything else someone else won't do. We have 109 people doing that out of the 192. And then we have 24 in animal resources. We're not constitutionally required to do animal resources, but we're doing that for the health department. So that's what our people do. Here's some other things that we do that I think that we can work together on. Number 1, what's the best response time to a call? How quick do you want us to get there? You call 911, how quick do you want us to be there? I'm with y'all. My number is 0, right? If it's 0, it means you didn't have to make the call. So the goal is not to respond. The goal is to prevent. Does that make sense? So how do you count what you prevent? That's hard to do, isn't it? I can tell you this, if you're doing a lot of responses, you're not preventing. So it's probably a negative, right? So any response for us is too long. We want to prevent. So here's some things that we do for crime prevention. We do business checks. Anybody own a business in unincorporated areas? You should be getting yellow cards under your doors. If it's in town, the police are doing it. But if you live in unincorporated areas or your business is, we're checking on your property. And we have a regular rate that we're checking on those. So you should be having cards slid up under the door. We want you to know when you leave your business if somebody's looking at it overnight. It also spreads our people out where break-ins may be. People may be trying to break into the property or hanging out in the area. So we do those, and those are free. We do them for free. We also do house checks. If you're going to be gone more than 3 days, we'll come check on your house. Now, if you're going to be gone more than a month or 2, we don't want to keep checking on it just because it's an empty house. Does that make sense? So vacation things is what we're doing. You can go on our app. This little QR code on your desk is our free app that you can download and how you can sign up for this. We do church and home safety programs. Everybody know about the HOA effect? That right after a crime happens, the HOA gets together and they want to meet with the sheriff and they want to talk about crime prevention. And then when that boils down, what happens to that? It sort of goes away again and it doesn't come back up until there's an incident again. Well, let me tell you the best thing you can do to help with the HOA effect. Lock your cars. Close the garage doors. These people that are breaking in are mostly only going into cars that are unlocked. They are a group of kids that go somewhere about every night. They just choose a different location and they put out 3 or 4 of them and they go through there and they just pull on door handles. And if that door handle opens up, they search it. If it's locked, they go to the next one. They're looking for guns, they're looking for money, and electronics. And they'll hit the start button with their foot on the brake because if you left your key in the glove box, they'll steal your car. And so it's not high tech. If we just lock it and take the keys out of the car, we'll prevent a lot of these break-ins in these communities. I'll just tell you that because it's a really simple thing to do, but we get comfortable because we live in a really safe place and we don't tend to do that. Some things that I want the builders in here to think about is there is a thing called crime prevention through environmental design. And I know when y'all were doing that, the professional builders I know look at that. Please think of that. That's about like putting lights up, making sure there's clear spaces, making sure if you don't want people there, it's really defined to where we don't want people. The more we can do in design in the prevention part of that is going to save us on staffing on the backside. Community relations is probably the most important thing the sheriff does. Every employee of ours has to do 20 hours of community service in a year. Those hours are picked by the sheriff's office. We're usually going to churches or street festivals or those kind of things. The reason for that is we want you to see our deputies not in an enforcement role. I want you to see me as Mike, not the sheriff. I want you to see him as Steve, as not the chief. Every employee gets to experience that. We also want to see you in a non-enforcement role, because you can get jaded that if every time I go to you it's a problem, I go to you it's a problem, I go to you a problem. Well, by the time I get to you, you're just a problem. Does that make sense? And we need to break out of that cycle. And so going to these community service events help us as well. The other thing it does, it solves a lot of crime. Because once you know Mike, you tell Mike things you wouldn't tell the sheriff. Hey, I think I know who's breaking in. Hey, my cousin's doing this right here. Hey, I saw this over here the other day. It creates a lot more conversations about what's really going on in the communities. Some of the things that we do really good is a shop with the sheriff at Walmart, shopping for kids that might not have a good Christmas. We get the names from guidance counselors at schools, and we give them a gift card to go shopping. You would think most kids would go for toys, and most do. Some go for food. We let them buy anything they want. We put a deputy with them, and we keep up with the money. I will tell you, an 8-year-old taught me a very valuable lesson. The first time I ever did this right on, I was keeping up with the money, and he had already got over $50, and he was at like 55, and I'm like trying to take a nice way to tell this 8-year-old he's spending too much money. So he had like 9 things in there, and I was like, hey man, we're over this. We're going to have to pick one of these and put it back. Which one do you want to put back? Well, I don't know. Which one do you like the most? Well, I don't know. I'm like, man. So I said, well, picked up this. I said, well, why do you like this one? Well, that one's for my sister. This one's for my brother. I was like, oh Lord, here's an 8-year-old teaching me something about what Christmas should be about. Does that make sense? He wasn't buying for himself. He was buying gifts that he could give to other people. So how do we get the money to do that? It's not taxpayer money. None of what we give away is tax money. It's people giving money through us to the community. So if you are a business and you want to donate to the Sheriff's Youth Services, that can fund that. If all the stuff that we're doing out here with the kids, we use donations to be able to fund those things. Another thing we do is a Thanksgiving meal drive. Thanksgiving meal drive, we actually get grocery stores to donate food. We cook it at the jail. We make it in plates. And our staff, mostly with our kids, go and deliver these meals on Thanksgiving morning. These are people that probably won't have a visitor on Thanksgiving. These are people that some will just shut the door because they're embarrassed. They don't want you to see what's in. Some have mental health issues. And some of them want you to sit down and talk to them and eat with them. I've had them bring a fork out themselves and say, eat this with me. And so we do that on Thanksgiving mornings. And then Community Appreciation Night we had just past September. Everything's free at the Sheriff's Office. We want that to be a fun place to go.